Okay, guys. So today we are going to discuss about a very famous podcast by Lex Fridman, and he had called Chief Maintainers of VLC and FFmpeg a few months ago. This podcast has been on YouTube for last 3 months, so I highly recommend you guys check it out. I watched that podcast last weekend and I have some important things to say about it, as well as I want to give my personal anecdotes about some things that were mentioned in that podcast. So let's get into it. Let's start with the first clip.
There's a bit of drama recently, Karen, on the interwebs, on Twitter. You have a spicy style on Twitter that I think articulates and celebrates all the incredible developers and development and the code, especially assembly that's involved in building some of these codecs and building some of this incredible technology. But that brings us to a bit of a debacle that happened. Tell me the full saga of what happened with the Google security engineers.
Just to be clear, Google are one of the biggest supporters of open source out there. They have been for a long time. It's just I think some things kind of went a bit overboard this time. So FFmpeg itself, and this is not like a secret, it's on the homepage, it processes untrusted data. There can be security issues when you parse untrusted data. That's very normal. But recently, what changed was Google started using AI to create security reports on an open source project, FFmpeg. Volunteers had to deal with that. They provided very limited funding, and they even went to the media first announcing how good their AI was before the issues could be fixed.
And this is in a public forum.
Yeah.
So reporting an issue, using AI to find an issue in the code, which is a security vulnerability, and then reporting that publicly before you're able to fix it.
Yeah. It's announcing how good their AI is. That they provided a standard 90-day industry deadline without really understanding the nature of volunteer-driven development.
Okay. So what Kiran is saying here is that Google has recently changed their policy of how they find vulnerabilities in their partner software, and they have started using AI for this. It is obvious. So AI is a machine technology. It's basically a machine which is working for you. So it is going to be multitudes of time faster than human beings. So if you point certain AI to any software and ask it to find vulnerabilities in that software, it's going to do it for you in minutes, but that is not the time that is going to be required to fix those bugs. Fixing those bugs is a whole different ball game, and that is what Kiran is trying to point out here. Finding a flaw or finding that something is broken is very easy, but trying to fix it is much harder.
In addition, this vulnerability was on an obscure 1990s game codec. The way, and let's look at it from their standpoint to begin with.
Can you steal me on their case?
Yeah, sure. They have substantial resources working on the security of open source projects that are ubiquitous, and they've used a lot of compute to do that, and very expensive and very capable security researchers to do that. And that's their viewpoint, is they are contributing by doing that. But I think that's where opinions differ. It opened up a lot of interesting fissures.
I think I resonate here with what Kiran is trying to say. The security professionals think of their job is just to find what is broken, and fixing the software is not their job, and that is the job of software developer. And then it just becomes like they are on a spree to finding what is broken, and they do not give enough thought about what they have found. Is it even worth fixing? So, for example, Kiran is saying here the AI and the security researchers at Google found some vulnerabilities which had no users. It was an obscure part of the library which was not getting used. It was a codec from the 90s. It had very few users and very few impact on the real world life of the actual users of FFmpeg. And I have personally experienced this a lot. So, what happens with security researchers is that their incentive to work is to find something is broken, and there is no incentive about finding a good quality bug. Any bug is a bug for them. In order to kind of hype themselves up, they always tag, even if they find a small bug, they will not accept that it is a small bug and it doesn't have any impact. Anything and everything they find is high vulnerability. It's completely a red alert. This needs to be fixed now. It's a big hole in your software. That is how they talk normally. And this creates a lot of pressure on the person who is actually building the software, because we have to put thought, we have to think about the users, we have to think about deployment. We also have to think about, if we fix this now, what else can break as a side effect. So the architectural side of it is very deep, and finding what is broken has a lot of subjectivity to it. And it's not that it is subjective by nature, but it has become subjective by practice, because security professionals always want to find an important bug. So any bug they find is always important according to them. And the kind of atmosphere that they create by hyping it up, by doing certain fear mongering, that we have found a very high vulnerability in your software, creates a fear, and that fear causes that just catches your attention, and that builds pressure on the person who is actually going to type that fix. And this is what Kiran is trying to criticize here.
I would say it does seem that there's a portion of the security community that look at themselves a bit like building architects that never have to go to site. Going to site is something that is a little bit beneath them, the actual day-to-day construction. They're there to do their security things, and it's someone else's problem. The security industry also kind of has a very aggressive tone towards things. The language they use is extremely aggressive. They use very strong language, like "you will get popped." And to Joe Public, get popped, it means something quite bad. For them, it means to get hacked.
Yeah, I mean, these red flags that they keep raising for minutities of the stuff is irritating, it is insensitive, it is unnecessary, and frankly, just builds pressure and causes developer burnout because they don't have the pressure to fix things. They just want to point out the cracks. That's all their job is. And they don't even, they are not honest about the quality of their work. Like, even if they find a minor bug, that is a high level, high alert, highly breaking stuff, which is not true, and they do not accept it.
The way I would look at it personally is a little bit like the padlock on your home. Not everyone, the padlock on your home, or the lock on your home, is there to protect against the capabilities of what it's there to protect. It's not there to protect nuclear secrets. It's not there to protect Fort Knox. And it could be looked at that they're using AI at a level of scale to go and pick those locks and then say, hey, your lock's not secure. You need to deal with this. Whereas actually they're the ones with resources to be able to fix this. But that seems to not be something either they'll contribute to in terms of patches or in terms of financially. And the scale of AI is kind of the issue. The bug reports are very wordy. They're very, very, there's almost a denial of service by AI generated bug reports.
Yeah. So earlier, when security researchers used to find things, it was still irritant for because they will just point out what is broken, and then the developers had to do the explaining that why it is not critical, why this is not important, why what you see is not actually how it is. So that onus falls on the developers, and they just have to point out and raise alarms everywhere. So earlier also this used to be an issue, but earlier finding things was quite difficult when AI was not there. So manually testing, doing the network research, this used to take time for security researchers. Now with the advent of AI, it's just one prompt and you get 10 different vulnerabilities. The problem with the vulnerabilities found by the AI is also that it misses the context. Sometimes what AI flags as a vulnerability might not even be a vulnerability for that particular software. So, for example, if you have a use case of email and your AI finds certain vulnerability, it is not relevant to you because you are on a private network. Your emails are inside your company. They are not exposed to the public. You are not sending emails outside of your organization. So the things that are flagged by AI do not even apply to you. But anyways, the AI is going to get them into its list of bugs that it has found. And the security researchers, without any context, is going to run and cry wolf that, oh my God, I have found a big bug. I have found a big vulnerability. I have found a high risk security vulnerability in our software. And the management is, they are just tuned for such kind of a hype. Then they are going to build pressure on the software developers. Then the software developer have to explain that, guys, we have built this keeping all this in mind. So this security vulnerability is not applicable for us. We do not have this use case. We have a company wide firewall already which protects us. So on that software level, we do not have to build this protection for us because it has been taken care of organization wide. Have we been sending emails outside of our organization, then things would have been different, and the software then was responsible to have a protection for its own emails. But since that is not happening, we are already on the company network. The company network itself is a isolated kind of an environment for us. So patching something that is not relevant to us doesn't make sense. Now this is going to take a lot of energy by the developer. By that time, the security professional has already put fears into minds of management, and now the management is judging their developers. This has been the story, and I have personally experienced this, and it is quite sad.
On very niche codecs. The other issue the security community has is everything is marked high priority. You're going to, this is the most important thing in the world. You need to deal with this high, vulnerable, scary. On, again, codec used on one disk in 1993. Yeah. And that's where the dichotomy lies. Going around telling everyone that their padlock's not safe, well, that's a hobby project for somebody. The safety of that codec is consummate to what that person thinks is their hobby. It's good that they're security analyzing it, but it doesn't need a big scary warning. This is a critical vulnerability. May recently also see that there was another quote-unquote vulnerability. It wasn't a Google in this case, but a filter could overflow and have an integer overflow, and one of your pixels could be the wrong color. And this was marked high, 7.5 severity in red.
This is true. I mean, it's, I don't know how they operate, but they kind of find the bugs that nobody else is find, and everything that they find is high priority, critical, high severity, 7.5 and above, which cannot be the case. And it is unfortunate that most of the management in corporate is not able to see through this. They are just attuned for very basic, very surface level things, and It's really, really sad.
And I think so. Alex Strange is a former FFmpeg developer. I think posting in a personal capacity.
So he posted about security engineers on Hacker News. His post reads, "The problem with security reports in general is security people are rampant self-promoters, in parentheses. Linus once called them something worse. Imagine you're a humble volunteer open source developer. If a security researcher finds a bug in your code, they're going to make up a cute name for it, start a website with a logo. Google is going to give them $1 million bounty. They're going to go to DEF CON and get a prize, and I assume some kind of secret security people orgy where everyone is dressed like they're in the Matrix. Nobody's going to do any of this for you when you fix it."
Fame and bounties and whatever. But the people who actually fix it suffer because of their, shall I say, reckless? I don't know, it might be a strong word, but that's what I feel, reckless behavior. Also, my experience has been with the corporate where at least I was getting paid for the work that I did. With the open source projects, people are literally putting their free time into building something that they love. And to have this kind of a behavior in open source community is very, very disappointing.
Basically commenting on the sort of the incentives for the different people involved are misaligned.
The problem here is a disproportion of means on discovery compared to patching it, right? And this is a big issue, right? And after that debacle, Google did some
They are now
changes.
starting to send patches, which is
And they also now have reward tools for fixing issues. So it has changed a bit because of that debacle. So it's good, right? Reward.
You know what, how the system should have been. If you have found the bug, then the responsibility to fix it is also with you. And the incentives that are given to somebody who fixes the code should be higher than the incentives that are given to somebody who finds the code. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen. And this is the fundamental problem about this.
For fixing issues. So it has changed a bit because of that debacle. So it's good, right? But we've seen, and we talked about Google, we've seen like some other companies saying, oh, you need to fix this bug because it's particularly.
Can you explain the XZ fiasco?
Also, if you're using an open source product and if you are a large company, then you might as well contribute to that open source tool rather than putting pressure on the open source developers to fix it for you because it is giving like a critical vulnerability inside your use case. That is just irresponsible because even you are responsible to contributing to open source responsibility. Being a big corporation, it's much easier for you to do that.
How a dependence on unpaid volunteers can cause major problems. Trillion-dollar corporations expect free and urgent support from volunteers. Microsoft Teams posted on a bug tracker full of volunteers that their issue is high priority. After politely requesting a support contract from Microsoft for long-term maintenance, they offered a one-time payment of a few $1,000s instead. This is unacceptable. We didn't make it up. This is what Microsoft Teams actually did. And then you give the image and the details and all that kind of stuff, showing that these trillion-dollar companies are not giving much money, not giving much support.
They think an open source product is a traditional vendor that they have an SLA. They think a public bug tracker is actually a third-party vendor's Jira where you can do all these things. It's not. It's there to report bugs. I think the thing that made this particularly heinous was the name dropping of Microsoft, the name dropping this is a visible product. Bugs.
So I think the problem is within corporations, employees have got used to certain kind of behavior. So it's somebody else's problem. It is their bug. It is their software. And this kind of finger pointing is very common within a company, be it any company. Now the problem arises when you are a large corporation using a open source tool and some of your team members find something lagging or something imperfect inside that tool. You cannot have that same attitude towards the open source community. They are not answerable to you. They are not your teammates. They are not the employees of your same organization. And then the employees who are really caught up in their own heads, in their corporate bubbles, go and throw punches at the open source community, then the community is going to get back to you. And that is what happened here. So somebody from Microsoft literally said that they have a high SLA for this feature, which is breaking inside FFmpeg, and they name dropped Microsoft. They name dropped Microsoft Teams, I think, and the answer they got was high burns.
If this was just a general bug report, I think that would have made it a lot better.
Yeah, so they literally said like this is a big deal because a lot of people are using it in Microsoft.
I mean, the Microsoft guys would have themselves fixed it, right? So again, they don't want to take the responsibility to fix it. It's just putting on somebody else's head and then expecting that you will get served what you deserve. It's slightly entitlement also. And this doesn't come from being at Microsoft. It unfortunately comes from being part of a corporate culture which rewards such kind of a behavior.
Psychologically. So I think what happens in these companies, maybe
people who take responsibility are often not celebrated as heroes more than people who just go on shouting wolf everywhere, finding bugs, reporting broken things, just showing themselves holier than thou. And such kind of people are celebrated, such kind of people are encouraged in corporate culture, and that is the fundamental problem that leads to such kind of fiascos.
You're right. They just think of FFmpeg as like a vendor that Microsoft surely is paying a huge amount of money to. They kind of assume that
in their interaction, and nobody anywhere in the stack is going like, wait a minute, shouldn't we be giving like millions of dollars to FFM? And this is a very big problem in large, like we're talking about some companies, but it's the same everywhere, right? But lots of those companies, when we talked to that person, right, he was just like a manager on one project in Microsoft Teams, right? He had like never really discussed with the open source community. He had no idea. And the problem is that usually there is what we call OSPOs, right, open source program offices in those type of companies, and they're the ones who are supposed to discuss with open source vendors.
I didn't even know that open source offices existed in corporate. This is the first time I'm hearing that there is like a team who deals with all the open source tools that a company deals with, and they are responsible of communicating with these open source developers. Nobody tells this to you when you're working in a large company, and that's unfortunate. And this is a problem of being too big, but I think it's quite fixable because every company has their internal portal, and when you are onboarding employees, this can just be like one section in your orientation session.
Those communities, but like they often don't explain that correctly internally, right? And here it's just like, we're not your supplier. If you want me to be your supplier, I'm very happy, right? I'm send you a contract in this case. Okay, this one.
Also, if you're using open source, you have the option of officially signing up with them for formal support. You have to pay extra for that, and if you do that, then they are bound to give you that kind of a service. But you don't want to use it, you want to use the free version of the software like everybody else, while being a Microsoft or a Google, and then such kind of a behavior is deplorable.
Kieran, you're behind on your contract in this days. Like I created 5 companies who are doing that around open source projects, so that's okay.
We should say that some of the spicy tweets that Kieran, you're behind, and some of the debacle produced results, positive results.
Donations have increased substantially.
I'm happy that donations have increased for them.
They're still not enough to cover even a single full-time developer, but on both a awareness level and a technical level, there's substantially more technical awareness and sort of awareness of the importance of FFmpeg as a result of X and what's happened. I can say it solved its purpose. People realize the level of importance FFmpeg has.
And on video learning, it's the same, right? Like for example, a very simple example. For more than a year, we couldn't update VLC on Android because of a bug on the Play Store, on Android Play Store, right? The only way we got someone to answer was to put a very spicy, as you say, tweet saying that we are going to stop distributing VLC for Android, right? And we have around 100 million people using that. And now, then, someone from Android actually came and discussed to us, right? We had the same issue with Microsoft, or like saying that we are going to stop distributing VLC on the Windows Store. And unfortunately, we are so small that the only very strong power we have to solve those issues is blaming on social network because it snowballs, and now they listen to us. But those large companies often have difficulty talking to us. Like, for example, VLC, right, is probably one of the top 10 software used on Windows. I am not part of Microsoft ISV programs, right? I don't have a point of contact at Microsoft, right? Well, I'm sure any other software, Adobe, Spotify has a point of contact. I don't have that, right? So raising awareness works. It's sometimes very spicy, lots of drama. Well, it takes some Twitter okay for that, but it's efficient.
Engineers, like you said, they're
I think this was a slide they shared about communication by one of their developers regarding the snowballing by Google. So he says basically, when you are already working 40 hours a week and big companies suddenly start an AI snowballer that shoots a dozen extra hours of work every week at you without doing anything to balance that, like for instance, also opening PRs with patches that fix the bugs. Definitely, big companies can do that, right? The relationship starts feeling like being an unpaid employee of their project. Yeah. What's the point of just showering these things with bug reports when the same tool or a similar one can also apparently fix the problem? This is a very valid critique. I think if you're using AI to find the bugs, you can also use AI to create patches and submit it to open source tools. Same with the security researchers at companies. If you are using AI to find a bug report, you can definitely submit patches and make the life of a developer slightly easier because we are already dealing with a lot. We are dealing with expectations from clients, we are dealing with the roadmaps, we are dealing with the future of the softwares, and then we are dealing with never ending technical debt. So, the least you can do as a part of the same organization that you work for is submit the patches, not just the bug report. Also, it is the responsibility of management to reward constructive behavior and not destructive behavior, like just submitting hundreds of bug reports on a small software without any relevant use case.